Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good evening. It is 10:30 here, Calgary, Alberta time, Friday night, July the 9th. I'm happy to be here. This is Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is Up to Us. And it's a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. The chat room is open if anybody would like to go and sit in there. That's great. And, I'm just glad to be here. I moved my show a little bit later tonight just in case our show on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio went over. And I had missed last Friday's show as well. I think as the previous Friday, so a couple of Fridays I missed, and I thought, well, I'll just move my show up a little further and change the time so I don't miss it. So I'm glad to be here, and I wanted to continue talking about an article that I found off of the childwelfare.gov. Child welfare it's a website. It's got some great information on there, all kinds of publications and downloadable information regarding child abuse and all the issues surrounding it. And that's www.childwelfare.gov. And then this article can be found, this article is called Strengthening Families and Communities, 2010 Resource Guide. And we were already talking about this, I believe we started looking at this Wednesday night, Monday night. So we've gone through some of it. And it's a great workbook. I really like it. It's 86 pages long, but it really gives parents a good idea of what they can do to help really, make the best out of strengthening their families, right? Communication and relationships and, all the stuff regarding like nurturing and just a lot of support for parents, right? So that's the whole issue regarding child abuse. I really feel like if more people had more resources, more parents had more resources and more help, quite often I think we could stop child abuse in many cases if we could get those parents some help, before they abuse their children, right? It's really unfortunate if we have to get them some help after. And what's really bad about that is because then the child, of course, is going to need help because they've been abused. So that's the whole issue, right? We want to stop this before it happens. And I think articles like this, Strengthening Families and Communities 2010 Resource Guide, are really worth taking a look at. And I hope that everyone will read them and then pass this on, just share it around. It's good information for anyone out there who's wanting to get some more information on how to strengthen families, right? So important. So we left off in an area, it's page 26 of this actual PDF download, Knowledge of Parenting and of Child and Youth Development. I think the more information parents have, the better they are, they'll be equipped and to know what to look for and what to expect of their children. And so, quite often I think children are, parents don't quite know at what ages to expect certain things from their children, so they lash out at them because they don't understand and they can't cope with why the child is behaving a certain way. So if parents would actually get this information and understand that there are certain ages, children just cannot, they're just not developed enough to do what you want them to do, you know what I mean, or to be able to handle certain things. So then, of course, the parent can't handle it and can't cope, and that's where a lot of abuse comes in, I think. And so if parents knew the developmental stages, and knew what to look for, and just what their child is capable of doing and how their child is capable of learning at a certain period in their life, parents would probably be able to do a lot better job bringing them up, you know what I mean, and to help support them, right? Because it's not about just bringing up your kids and pushing them around, abusing them, and then booting them out of the house, where I know a lot of parents feel that way. And I knew a lot of parents growing up that felt that way. Including my parents. So that's the whole issue, right? It's very ignorant. It's very ignorant behavior. This is 2010, not 1840, and we need to start waking up to the fact there's a lot of ignorance on this planet, and people are really hurting each other, and this is really wrong. And so I'm a voice for children. I'm a child rights advocate. I am the Canadian Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and I fight to save children's lives every day, and that's what I will do until I am no longer on this planet. So it's very important to me that we get this information out to people so we can stop child abuse, right? And so I just want to be one more voice. There's all kinds of amazing advocates out there doing some awesome work to stop child abuse, and I'm just glad to be able to raise my voice with theirs and be part of the change. I thought, why is this world still, why are we still having to deal with this stuff? Because no one wants to deal with it. No one will take the initiative and say, look, we got to change this. We have to stop this, right? And of course, now we know that there's lots of people out there talking, but I'm talking, on a national scale, right? We really need everyone to get involved so we can stop this whole mess, and to help families build, some good solid, strengths and relationships so that they can have a good life, right? Nobody likes to suffer. And I saw people suffer my whole entire lifetime. And that's the whole issue, right? I mean, when you grow up in a home like that, abusive home where everyone is suffering, including the children, the parents are suffering and the children, you really get to see the other side of how so many children live and so many parents live. And families in chaos, families in crisis, families in destruction, families who are hurting. This is not people who are just strangers. These are people that were hurting, and so it was very hard to grow up around that. So that's why it's so important that we do all we can, for these children out here to change this, and to make the necessary steps to change this, so that we can protect children and keep them from having to have this horrible start at life, and then if they even survive it. And then have to try to deal with all these adult survivor issues, right? So that's the whole issue. And parents just need to learn to cope instead of, lashing out at their children, whether it's physically, verbally, mentally, psychologically, or sexually, right? Parents need to learn that children are not there for them to abuse. And they did, regardless of whether they want to believe that or not, their thinking is false. So that's the whole issue. It's very ignorant for people to believe things like that, and if they want to be ignorant, well, that's their choice. But then hopefully their children will not have to endure living, underneath of their reign of terror. So that's the whole issue. And that's why we really have to get proactive and stop child abuse, right? It's not right, and no child should be abused, and no one should be abusing a child. I mean, it's just not right, and no one should be abusing anyone. I really fight for human rights as well, like really human rights, all rights, and animal rights. I mean, I just think that it's too bad that all the people who would support that and say, okay, I stand up for human rights, I stand up for child rights, stop all abuse against anyone, and then so all of those people would stand up. And that would leave all the abusers sitting on the ground, and then we could round them up and ship them off somewhere way far away so they could never, ever, ever interact with our good community ever again. And I would love to see that, because everyone deserves to have peace in their heart, peace in their minds, peace in their life, feel good about themselves, and you really can't. It's extremely hard to have peace in your life when you're around an abuser, whether it's a parent or a partner, or, boyfriend, girlfriend, doesn't matter. Anyone can abuse. Anyone can be an abuser. So why should we have to tolerate their abusive behavior, if they're going to continue that on? And that's something else that we need to address. But the whole issue is first we have to help the children. You know what I mean? So we really do have to get proactive, and I'm just glad to be another voice. So that's why I do these shows. I'm also a student, a part-time student in between courses at MRU here in Calgary, and studying child rights and international community development. I volunteer for a number of different organizations, within Canada and the United States, and I'm just busy all the time trying to get the word out to people and trying to make this world a better place. I got off the couch 3 years ago, and I thought, that's it. I'm not sitting on the couch anymore. I have a voice. I can use it. I have some time. I can use my time to try to help out and do what I can. And especially from where I came from, knowing what it's like to grow up battered, knowing what it's like to see your parents at each other's throats, trying to kill each other, knowing what it's like to see your parents trying to kill themselves, and then showing their children that, life is not worth living, and that, this is how I grew up, so that's why I do what I do. It's very, very serious, and so we need to get on this. We need to stop child abuse and stop all abuses, really, domestic violence and abuse and everything. It's just horrible. So the topics of abuse are very sensitive, and I hope everyone will listen at your own discretion. You have to know what's good for you to listen to. So if the show topic will bother you, Strengthening Families and Communities 2010 Resource Guide, then you need to turn it off. You will not be hurting my feelings at all. And if you're a young person under the age of 18, I ask that you have someone, okay it, that you can listen to this show, to all my shows, because there's a lot of adult material on them. They're ultimately about, children, stopping child abuse, fighting for children's rights, fighting to save children's lives. But the whole issue is that there's a lot of adult material on here, and that's because I do fight to save children's lives, that I would hope that you would have someone who is kind of helping you to make decisions on how to stay safe online. It is so important that you keep yourself safe online. There are child sexual predators out there all the time trying to get a hold of children. And you have to know this, and you have to know how to keep yourself safe. Do not ever give out any personal information. Don't tell them where you live. Don't give them your phone number. Use a fake name when you're online, and never ever tell them what school you go to, your teacher's name, nothing like that. That's what they will try to find out. And then they'll tell you they're 12 or 13 years old or whatever, 14, and they love to skateboard and they love music and they like to go hang out with their friends. And then you'll meet them after school, and it'll turn out to be a 37-year-old child sexual predator, whether it's a female or male, and they will assault you, and they could kill you, and you could end up losing your life, but you definitely will lose your innocence, and you will, lose any sense of joy and happiness you might have had. It'll be gone. It'll be stolen. And so you do not want that to happen to you. So you keep yourself safe online, get the information. The FBI has a great website regarding internet safety, and I really like it, and it's very good for parents to get that information and learn how to help your children to stay safe and protect your children. This is the most important thing a person can do. Children are the world's most valuable asset. Children are the future of this world. Now, if people don't start waking up and smelling the coffee on that, then we got a real problem. You know what I mean? We got to pull the paper bags off of our heads or wherever our heads are stuffed somewhere and start realizing that children should come really before anything. Children should come before the ecology. Children should come before the economy. Children's lives are the most important thing in the whole entire world. They are the world. They are the next world. And if we don't change this for them, then we can sit back and we can just hang our heads in shame for not doing all we can to help them to have a good life, right? And just by allowing this whole situation to continue on, we have to, and we can fight it, and if we all get involved, we can really make some noise. And so that's why I say I hope everybody will get involved and help save children's lives. It's so important. So we'll start with this section here, page 26 of the Strengthening Families and Communities 2010 Resource Guide from childwelfare.gov. And that's the Child Welfare Information Gateway at www.childwelfare.gov. And knowledge of parenting and of child and youth development, that's where we left off. Parents know I'm reading right from the page, parents know their children best, their unique behaviors, interests, and abilities, but no parent can be an expert on all aspects of infant, child, and teenage development or the most effective ways to support a child at each stage. And when parents are not aware of normal developmental milestones, interpret their child's behaviors in a negative way, or do not know how to respond to and effectively manage a child's behavior, they can become frustrated and may resort to harsh discipline or emotional withdrawal. There is extensive research linking healthy child development to effective parenting. And children thrive when parents provide not only affection, but also respectful communication and listening, consistent rules and expectations, and safe opportunities that promote independence. And see, I didn't grow up with any of that. There was no affection, there was no listening, there was no respectful communication between anyone in our home. There was no consistent rules, no expectations, except for failure and death and whatnot. And there was no safe opportunities that promoted independence, right? So we grew up like that, with the opposite of that. That's just exactly what happened to my family. So that's why this stuff is so important for people to know. So you can help your children to grow up healthy and have healthy lives. They will in turn most likely teach the same behavioral skills to their children, because that's how they learn. They learn from you, the parent, right? And they will parent according to how you parent. So they might have a little different style, but they will get the basic fundamental stuff, which is so important, right? Because they're like little sponges. They just pick up everything the parents do. Successful parenting fosters psychological adjustment, helps children succeed in school, encourages curiosity about the world, and motivates children to achieve. And parenting skills are not static. As children grow and mature, parents need to change the way they respond to their children's needs. In addition, parenting styles need to be adjusted for each child's individual temperament and unique circumstances. So, there's things that will vary. There's no textbook copy. There's no textbook copy parent, and there's no textbook copy child. Everyone's different. But the thing is that there is some really important stuff that parents need to know. in order so that they don't lash out and hurt their children, because children do things at certain stages of their development that are very frustrating for parents. And then parents, if they don't know and don't have the information, they think, why can't my child learn? And then pretty soon, before you know it, they're abusing their child. And that can happen, right? And we see toddlers and 2-year-olds burned with cigarette burns, and beaten, and just horrible things that people do to their babies because they just cannot cope with the fact that their children are at a stage that they don't know anything about. You know what I mean? And they are too ignorant to get online. If they have a computer, go to the library, get online, get some information regarding how to look after their children. Or call someone, make a phone call, and say, look, I'm a struggling parent here. I need some help. I don't want to hurt my child, but my child's driving me absolutely up the wall. How am I going to help this situation out so that I don't hurt my child? What's wrong with that? Well, because too many people think it's okay just to go ahead and lash out and beat their children. I grew up like that. My parents thought it was perfectly okay for them to do that. They didn't mind if anybody knew. They didn't want us going around spreading it around because they'd already been busted and brought up on charges. But the thing is after they would do what they did and physically abuse us and whatnot, and verbally abuse us, then we'd have to go to school the next day, and we'd show up with bruises and whatnot. And sometimes I'd be showing my mom and saying, what am I going to say about that? And my mom would say, just tell him I hit you. Just tell him I did it. And I don't care. You're a bad kid, and that's all. You know what I mean? So my mom was very abusive, and I just had to deal with it. So that's the whole issue. It's very, very damaging, and it's just because she could not cope, and she was too ignorant to get the information to try to help her children, and let 7 children basically go on a downward spiral, watching my parents in their domestic violence and abuse situations. It just wrecked the family, right? And that's why I'm speaking out. So, it's so important that parents don't do that to your children. Get yourself some help if you're having a hard time. It's not your children's fault that you're having a hard time. If you're having a hard time, you need to be responsible and get some help so that you can help your children. And because children, love their parents generally, most of the time, and want a happy family. They want a family that feels safe and comfortable and nurturing. And obviously there's no such thing as a perfect life. Stressful things will happen, but as long as the family pulls together to work through those stressors, those crises that come up in life, which always do, sadly enough, I don't think there'd be one person on the planet that could say they've never ever had anything come up in their life that was stressful or could be classified as trauma or crisis of some type. But as long as the family has built these mechanisms, from day one, starting out as early as possible, where the parents rely on each other and support each other, and then they show that to the children, and everybody pulls together as a family when these things happen, right? Instead of pulling apart. And that's what we see quite often with families. They just rip apart because 1 or 2 people in the family, which is generally the parents, are just so ignorant and will not accept the fact that they need to get help. You know what I mean? And so then the whole family suffers because you've got one person who says, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, it's all you. And as soon as somebody says that, you know that there's a problem. Because if somebody's not willing to take a look at their behavior and say, oh, maybe it is me, maybe we do need to talk about this, then you know there's a problem. And my dad was borderline schizophrenic. He still believes today that there's nothing wrong with what he did. He used to run down the freeway and try to kill himself in the middle of the night, and he was very abusive to my mother and to his sons, somewhat abusive to me as well. And he will not admit that he has a problem whatsoever. And even today thinks he was the best husband ever, and he loved his family, and he does not remember the fights and the terror that was going on pretty much on a daily basis, and for most of my young years of development and life, right? So, I remember, but he doesn't because he's sick. He's mentally ill. But he would not get any help, and he was told to get help, and he didn't, and we moved out of the country, and that was that. So this is how this sort of thing can happen, and it's very important that you realize no parent is perfect, and everyone needs help now and then, you know what I mean? So there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I need some help. I don't want to hurt my family. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt my children. I want to get some help. There is something wrong with people that say, I don't have a problem, I can do whatever I want to my family, and I can hurt my family what I want. There's something wrong with somebody that says that, right? But there's nothing wrong with somebody saying, hey, I need help. you know. So that's why I'm so busy trying to get this information out to people, and I hope, you know, and you know what, I thank everyone who's tuning in. I just checked my numbers. I've got like 6,700 shows listened to, which that's a lot of shows. I mean, I've done almost 300, probably close to 300 shows now, but that just tells me somebody's listening to my shows, and I really appreciate it. I really do, and I hope that you will share my link with people and just let them know that I'm on here just gabbing all the time about stopping child abuse and stopping domestic violence and human rights abuses, right? It's just horrible. And so I do appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I don't know who half the people who are listening. I know some because they're my advocate friends and whatnot, but there's quite a few people that are probably listening that I don't even know who you are, and I thank you so much for tuning in and for, you know, just for supporting what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks so much. So we'll just keep reading here. It says, knowledge of parenting and child development also changes over time, and many parenting practices that were common only a generation ago, like laying children to sleep on their stomachs, for example, are not recommended today. And new research, social expectations, social structures, and even laws have combined to make parenting a different task than it was even 20 years ago. Parents need access to information that is grounded in the latest research. And so that's what they had to say about that. They said knowledge of parenting and child and youth development, exploring strengths and needs. All parents have questions about raising their children, and they need timely answers and support from someone they trust. One way to describe this is simply to acknowledge parenting is part natural and part learned. And it says parents, we kind of went over a lot of this on the last show, which was probably Monday night or Wednesday night. Parents may feel more comfortable voicing concerns and exploring solutions when providers focus on the parents' own hopes and goals for their children. Help parents identify and build on their strengths in parenting, model nurturing behavior by acknowledging frustrations and recognizing the parents' efforts. So, you know, it's good to when parents reach out and get some help and support, you know, because it's just helpful to have someone on your side, you know what I mean, to help you out, right? Because no one knows everything, that's for sure. It's a sharing strategies and resources to strengthen knowledge of parenting and of child and youth development. When parents share their concerns and perspectives on their children, there's an opportunity to explore solutions and share resources. Educational materials about parenting and child development may help parents more accurately assess their child's development relative to others of the same age, and that have realistic expectations for their child's behavior, and explore ways to communicate those expectations effectively. And helpful resources for enhancing parenting knowledge and skills may include information and opportunities to practice in the area of child and youth development, which is what parents can expect and look for as a child or youth grows. The ability of children or teens to understand and control their behavior at different times, and addressing developmental challenges such as inconsolable crying, bedwetting, eating or sleeping problems, lying, school issues, problems with peers, and puberty. These are all major things that parents have to deal with, with children, right? And it's huge. I can't, you got to give some good parents out there. I tell you, I know. I've met some good parents. I've also met some extremely bad parents. And so I know the difference, right? How to keep children safe, including information on shaken baby syndrome, sudden infant death syndrome, child-proofing strategies, appropriate child care, and safety in the community. That's really vital. Because children, man, I'm telling you, even if you keep your children safe, they are still vulnerable. And even if when people do keep their children safe, they still become victims of abuse, whether it's a child, some sort of a child sexual predator, someone in the family, relative. That's quite often the case. 90% of child sexual abuse is a family member. 90%. 1 out of 3 girls and 1 out of 6 boys will be sexually abused under the age of 18, and that's the stats. That's the truth. It's underreported, so it's probably more than that. That's the huge issue, right? This happens in families. This is happening in people's homes, whoever has access to the child. And that's why it's so important for people to know and parents to know that, it's not only these strangers out on the street you got to watch out for. You really have to be on the lookout for everyone in the home. Because abusers, like 90% of abuse is from someone in the home, whether it's child sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, all of it. The child knows the abuser most of the time. It's usually a family member, relative, or close family friend. The other 10% might be a stranger somewhere that they would run into out, daycare or somewhere where, out away from the home, right? but 90% is within the home, and that's the sad part. It's going on right under the nose of some parents, and some parents are part of it. And some parents are actually the abusers, and some parents are just turning a blind eye because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to have to make a change and move. Maybe they might have to move. They might lose their house and their car. Well, who cares? That child's being abused. You can always get another car, get off your lazy butt and get another job and get that child some help. I'm so tired of people thinking about their material things before their children, and that makes me sick. And the whole idea that they think, well, I might have to work. What does that mean? What if I had to work? If I leave this abusive partner of mine, that means I have to maybe get a job. Well, they don't want to work, so they just let the other partner continue to abuse their child and them. So see, this is the sick behavior. That is a sickness. I'm sorry, but it is. It's really extremely wrong for people to put material things and and put things like that in, as being more important than a child's life. There's nothing more important than a child's life, as far as I'm concerned. There's not. And we cannot place enough, stress on this. We cannot stress it enough. The fact that, we owe it to these children on this planet right now to get them some help. So if you know of a child is being abused and you don't make the phone call and it is found out, you can be brought up on charges. If you know about abuse and you don't make the phone call, you're just as guilty as the abuser. If you suspect child abuse, but you're not sure, don't investigate it, just make the call. Make the phone call. I mean, half the time they don't remove these kids anyway, and we hear about their stories in the paper the next day, right? That's the whole issue. They don't normally remove children unless it's absolutely necessary. And we were not removed from the home. We should have been. All 7 of us. Well, there were 6 in the home at that time. We should have been removed until my parents could prove that they had gone through all the counseling. And I would have suggested, if I was that judge, 2 or 3 years of counseling, we would have still maybe been able to visit, home visits and whatnot, where we could spend some time together as a family and whatnot. But my parents needed help, and they did not get it. And they were told to go to court order. It was court ordered counseling. You know what I mean? But they went a few times. That was it. And the war continued. We moved to Canada, and they were out of the eyes of the social services and all the child protection services, and the CPS and DHS and whatnot. And so that's the whole issue. That's what's happening. Most children are not removed. Sadly, I wish that more were. To be honest with you, where are you going to put them? Into these abusive foster homes, I guess. The whole situation stinks, and I'm not going to sit here and say that there's a perfect answer. We have to create think tanks, young people with young minds who are thinking of new ideas, right, and new ways to solve and to help these children, to help solve this problem, right. New think tanks need to come into the picture. They really do. Younger people with a different attitude, a different outlook on things, because this system is not working. It's obviously not working. They're removing some children from homes that shouldn't be removed from homes, in error, and we know this happens. Then they're not removing some children even though they should, right? And so it's like something needs to be done. And then where do you put them? Into another abusive foster care situation? We know all about that. Right? So, really, it's going to take a real generational change. This has to be the generation. And I hope everyone that's listening to my voice will get so fired up about this that you will tell everyone about it. And I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. And I hope that you will join us, because we have programs coming up, rolling out this, hopefully that we wanted to roll them out this summer. We're waiting on funding. But the whole issue is once we get our funding, we're going to do it, and it's going to go nationwide eventually, and it will be Canada-wide as well. So, yes, we're going to make some huge change, and it will be very proactive and very helpful for people. So I hope that you will get on board. Check our website out at www.dreamcatchersforabusechildren.com. And, you can get the Child Abuse Handbook. It's a free PDF download. It's really just information compiled by Donna Shear and Sandra Potter. They put it all into this Child Abuse Handbook. It's got all the signs and symptoms, how to report it, resources and links for parents who are having a hard time, survivor information in there. It's a great workbook. And not a workbook, but it's a great PDF download. It's an awesome handbook. and it's got all kinds of references and links and whatnot in there. It's really good information. I hope you will get it. It's free. It's a free download. And I got mine, so I hope everybody else will get theirs too. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you can tune in. I'll be in on this weekend. You can check my schedule. I'll be on there a few times this weekend, as well as Monday night with Kate Swift. Kate Swift is going to, 2 p.m. on Monday afternoon. Kate Swift is going to join me. She's a survivor. This Tangled Web, www.thisTangledWeb.co.uk. And she's an artist, author, and a survivor, and my friend. So have a great night, everybody, and we'll be talking to you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.